Chapter 9. The Fiesta. April was dry. Every day was hotter than the day before. Gray dust settled on the houses and in the streets and clung to the shriveled leaves of the trees like swarms of tiny insects. The trees of the bush were only skeleton trees, gray bony trunks and limbs. Everything gasped for water. Mother drew bucket after bucket of water from the well to give to her thirsty plants. They sucked in the water with a greedy gurgling, and in a little while the earth around them was cracked again and dry. Father sat in his hammock or limped about the house and yard. Tigre worked on his rope. Several times he had to unravel it and start again, but each time it was a little easier. A few months ago, he thought, he would have given it up as not worth the trouble. But his persistence in keeping on with the bushing had done something more for him besides getting down bush. As using his muscles constantly had strengthened his arms, so doing the hard thing had exercised and strengthened his will. It was easier now for him to stick to unpleasant things. I am growing up, I think, Tigre said to himself. When 2 days went by without work on his rope, he felt guilty. Everyone was looking forward to May. Soon now the rains will come, people said to one another. In May the chocks will ride. And Tigre thought, in May I will face the bulls in the corrida. In May I will sow my milpa. Then it was May. May 3rd came, the day of Holy Cross. This was the day when the rains should begin. But from dawn to darkness the sun rode across a clear, bright sky. The chocks did not come. The men of the village had cut down the trees for the bull ring the week before. They had built the ring, placing each tree a little apart from the next so the people could look through at the fight. The church floor had been scrubbed, the altar newly painted. All the santos had been freshly painted and then dressed in fine, new, white cotton clothing. The dance platform, too, was ready, in the street before the church, and held up by 4 poles, one at each corner of the platform, was a covering of thatch to protect the dancers from the almost certain rain. Every man in the village had a haircut and wore a red handkerchief about his neck. Every woman had a new hair ribbon and a new embroidered huipil freshly washed and ironed. The 4th of May came, and visitors began to pour into the village. The bush trails were choked with travelers burdened like ants, bundles of clean clothing and hammocks on their backs. The bulls arrived. The orchestra came. The village was jammed with people. Every house had 20 or 30 sleeping at night in the room where 4 or 5 usually slept. The hammocks were strung like cobwebs over and under one another. Men slept 4 and 5 in each hammock. Women sat up or slept with the children on the floor. The schoolhouse, too, was full, and many people slept in the open, hanging their hammocks from trees. Tigre's Uncle Pedro and his family came, and Mother's mother and father and her sisters. For 3 days the village was filled with music and laughter. Skyrockets exploded and spattered the sky with stars without pause. Every family had bought dozens. There was dancing and feasting and prayer. The night of the last dance came. All the village was gathered around the platform, the men in their stiff white suits and silk shirts, the women wearing their gold Fiesta jewelry, the girls as pretty as butterflies in their white dresses and little straw hats with gay ribbons and flowers. Holy Cross, too, had been carried out from the church to watch the dancing. The orchestra began the music for the dance of the vaqueros. The boys came on with their ropes. Tigre saw at once that his rope could not win. Some were so true, so beautiful, woven as smoothly as glass. But his was not the worst one either. There were others as rough and even more misshapen. After the dance, the boys went to the house of the Fiesta leader. There must be no sleep for any of them during the night. This was the ceremony vigil, a test of their physical and mental endurance. The next day they went together to the bull ring. Aye, it was exciting. The bulls bellowed and pawed the ground and ran at the boys and men with lowered horns. Pancho No had his shirt pierced, the horn just missing his shoulder. Felipe Zul fell down and had to be dragged away quickly. Tigre jumped on top of one of the tree posts of the bull ring just in time. One bull, poor thing, had been through it all before. No matter how sharp the gaily decorated barbs that stung his flesh, no matter how sudden and loud the firecrackers exploding under his belly, he simply sat down and refused to move and had to be taken away. Outside around the bull ring the villagers watched and shouted, "Bravo, Pancho! Bravo, Juan!" Even father was there, leaning on Uncle Pedro's shoulder. Great-grandmother stood straight and proud, never moving, even when once the bull's horns came through the ring almost in her face. Concha's eyes shone. "Bravo, Tigre! Bravo, Tigre!" she yelled. The dog ran back and forth madly, making as loud a noise as any. Father tired easily, and he and Mother and Chantaka left early. But great-grandmother and Concha stayed until the very end. Then it was over. Tigre went home. Mother's father and Mother and the aunts and cousins had left. Mother had hot chocolate for Tigre, and he sat in his hammock and drank it. He was so tired he could hardly hold the bowl. Great-grandmother mentioned the rope. She was the only one who did. You were too impatient, she said. I watched you, always in a hurry to get it finished. But it was not the worst one, she added kindly. Tigre's head dropped lower over his chocolate. His eyes closed. Another time I will do better, he said sleepily. That I believe, great-grandmother said.